What started as a quiet courtroom battle has now exploded into one of the most talked about controversies of the year. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, once hailed as Hollywood's golden couple, are now at the center of a rapidly unfolding media storm. And this time the spotlight isn't on a red carpet or a movie set, it's on a courtroom, a subpoena, and a wave of digital creators refusing to be silenced. In a shocking legal twist, multiple content creators have been served subpoenas by Blake Lively's legal team demanding access to private messages, unpublished drafts, and even their behind-the-scenes communications. The creators weren't defendants, they weren't being sued. They were commentators, analysts who spoke publicly about a lawsuit involving Blake and director Justin Baldoni. Their crime speaking freely, questioning narratives, and holding the powerful accountable. But instead of backing down, these creators are fighting back. What was once a legal footnote has now ignited a global conversation about free speech power and the boundaries of commentary in the age of influence. Legal experts are alarmed, celebrities are silent, and the public there, watching and choosing sides. Is this a fair use of legal discovery or a chilling warning to anyone who dares to challenge celebrity narratives? Is it about justice or control? In this deep dive, we're unpacking the full scope of the controversy, from the creators who are speaking out to the lawyers breaking it all down to the public backlash that no one saw coming. This isn't just a lawsuit anymore. This is a landmark free speech showdown, and the consequences could shape digital discourse for years to come. In a stunning turn of events, the legal battle involving Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds has now triggered a digital movement. What began as a high-profile dispute over defamation and privacy has exploded into a landmark free speech debate, pulling content creators, legal experts, and the public into an escalating cultural flashpoint. The celebrity couple, known for their lighthearted public image, is now facing sharp public scrutiny over their recent legal strategy that targeted several prominent online personalities. The heart of the controversy lies in the subpoenas issued to multiple creators, demanding access to private communications, content drafts, and internal discussions related to commentary on Blake Lively's lawsuit involving filmmaker Justin Baldoni. While Blake's legal team insists the move is part of legitimate discovery, creators and free speech advocates see it as a dangerous overreach, one that threatens to silence dissent and intimidate independent voices. Initially, the legal case was centered around whether certain claims made by creators online contributed to reputational harm. But things quickly escalated when subpoenas were served to content creators across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and even podcast hosts. The goal seemed clear: pressure online commentators into compliance or force them to censor themselves. But this strategy has backfired. Instead of silencing critics, the subpoenas have mobilized them. Creators are speaking out, lawyers are weighing in, and most importantly, the public is starting to pay close attention. The case itself stems from a years-long tension between Blake Lively and filmmaker Justin Baldoni. Initially framed as a professional disagreement, it morphed into a highly publicized legal showdown involving allegations of defamation, contract breaches, and now the boundaries of speech in the digital age. Creators were drawn into the storm after covering the case, analyzing filings, and questioning inconsistencies in public narratives. While most of the commentary stayed within factual bounds and fair use, the tone wasn't always flattering to Blake or Ryan, and that, many believe, is what provoked the subpoenas. But the broader concern isn't about one lawsuit, it's about setting a precedent. If a celebrity can use their wealth and influence to subpoena and intimidate online voices for criticism, what's to stop others from doing the same? Legal scholars have pointed to a growing trend known as strategic lawsuits against public participation, or SLAPPs. These lawsuits aren't necessarily meant to win on the merits. Instead, they aim to burden critics with legal costs, time, and emotional stress, thereby discouraging further speech. Anti-SLAPP laws exist to prevent this, but not every jurisdiction has strong protections. And in Blake's case, critics argue the subpoenas feel dangerously close to this line. As this tension builds, media organizations are taking note. What once looked like a private legal maneuver is now front-page news. And for creators, many of whom rely on platforms for income and reach, the stakes are nothing short of existential. In the coming sections, we'll unpack how creators are fighting back, how this case is reshaping digital discourse, and why Hollywood itself is starting to feel the heat. The backlash came swiftly. As soon as news broke that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds were subpoenaing online creators, a digital firestorm ignited across social media. Twitter threads exploded, YouTube videos dissected every angle. Live streams became digital town halls for concerned fans and independent commentators alike. And at the center of it all were the creators' once independent voices now unexpectedly cast as the main players in a landmark cultural dispute. For many creators, the subpoena didn't just represent a legal inconvenience. It symbolized an existential threat to their right to speak freely on public matters. One YouTuber who had previously analyzed Blake Lively's legal filings received a subpoena demanding not just the content they published but also private messages, unpublished drafts, and financial information. The response was immediate and unapologetic. "This is not about truth," the creator said in a now viral statement. "This is about power. They don't want their version questioned and they're using the court system to scare people into silence." That video alone garnered millions of views within 48 hours. But it wasn't just viral, it was galvanizing. It transformed what could have been a quiet legal skirmish into a full-blown online movement. Other creators echoed the same sentiment. Legal commentary channels began releasing in-depth videos on the scope and legality of the subpoenas. Some of them brought in actual lawyers to interpret the legal maneuvering. Others reached out to advocacy organizations for guidance. The broader question became clear: was this a fair and lawful attempt at discovery, or was it a form of censorship cloaked in legal formalities? What emerged was a consensus among creators, free speech experts, and even some in mainstream media. The subpoenas were aggressive, overreaching, possibly unconstitutional, and even if technically legal, undeniably intimidating. That intimidation sparked a massive wave of creator solidarity. Major voices from across genres, legal commentary, pop culture, journalism, and independent media began speaking up. A live stream hosted by 3 of the subpoenaed creators turned into a 4-hour town hall, with thousands of commenters flooding the chat in support. Hashtags like #CreatorsUnderFire, #Subpoena Backlash, and #SpeakFree trended for days. One of the biggest concerns: the chilling effect. Several smaller creators admitted they had considered covering the Blake Lively case but hesitated once subpoenas started making headlines. Others said they pulled videos entirely fearing they might become legal targets next. This phenomenon, when people stop speaking out of fear, is precisely what anti-SLAPP laws are designed to prevent. And while the subpoenas in this case don't constitute lawsuits against the creators themselves, experts noted that the psychological and financial burdens were functionally similar. Legal experts began weighing in. First Amendment scholars warned that this case, if allowed to proceed unchecked, could set a precedent where powerful figures could indirectly police speech through aggressive discovery tactics. Former federal prosecutors noted that unless these subpoenas are challenged or limited by the court, the door might remain open for similar moves in future cases involving public figures. Some creators decided not to wait for the courts. They began fundraising for legal defense, not just for themselves but for all creators who may face similar intimidation tactics in the future. One legal fundraiser surpassed $100,000 within 48 hours, with donations from fans, lawyers, fellow creators, and even other celebrities who privately disagreed with how the case was unfolding. And as this movement grew, so too did the media interest. Coverage expanded beyond niche legal circles. Rolling Stone, Vanity Fair, Vox, and Variety ran stories framing the subpoenas as part of a larger conversation about speech power and digital commentary. The Washington Post even published a headline asking "Are creators the new journalists?" a question that struck at the very core of this fight. Because that's what this battle has become, a referendum on who has the right to analyze, criticize, and comment on the powerful, and whether that right ends where celebrity reputation begins. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, for their part, have remained silent publicly. Their legal team issued a short statement reiterating their right to discovery under civil procedure, adding that no one is above the law, and that includes online commentators who make harmful or defamatory statements under the guise of free speech. But critics pushed back, pointing out that most of the commentary cited was based on public documents, court filings, or clearly framed as opinion, all of which are typically protected speech under U.S. law. One legal analyst put it plainly: there's a difference between defamation and dissent. What we're seeing here isn't a search for justice, it's an attempt to control the narrative. And that narrative control has only become harder as more creators speak out. Several have now filed motions to quash the subpoenas entirely with legal representation, backed by civil liberties groups. In doing so, they are not only defending their right to speak, they're creating a legal roadmap for others to follow. It's the beginning of what could be a long, complex court battle, but the outcome could determine the boundaries of digital speech for years to come. In the next section, we'll examine how lawyers, public figures, and Hollywood itself is reacting to the growing backlash, and why some insiders are quietly distancing themselves from the Lively Reynolds legal strategy. As the firestorm around Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds continued to build, the narrative evolved from a celebrity legal squabble into a deeper, more disturbing conversation about power, reputation, and the tools used to maintain public image. Legal experts from across the country began stepping into the conversation, not just on television, but through op-eds, interviews, podcasts, and social media threads. And their collective message was both sobering and urgent. This isn't just a lawsuit anymore, it's a precedent in the making. At the heart of their concern was the growing use of subpoenas and other legal mechanisms to intimidate commentary, particularly from smaller voices. Without institutional backing, unlike major news outlets, independent creators often lack the legal resources to fight back. A single subpoena can mean thousands of dollars in legal bills, hours of stress, and a risk to livelihood, and that's if they even know how to respond properly in the first place. Harvard law professor and constitutional scholar Danielle Preston weighed in on a popular legal podcast, saying the First Amendment doesn't just protect the New York Times or CNN. It protects the TikTok creator, the YouTube commentator, the newsletter writer. If courts allow celebrities to demand invasive private information from commentators based on public analysis, it's not just troubling, it's dangerous. Her remarks were quickly picked up by mainstream outlets. Soon after, the American Civil Liberties Union (ACLU) posted a public statement warning of the chilling effects of celebrity-driven discovery tactics in defamation-adjacent litigation. The Electronic Frontier Foundation (EFF), a nonprofit focused on digital rights, followed suit, offering legal support and calling the case a test of free expression in the influencer era. But this legal concern wasn't confined to the academic and nonprofit world. Inside Hollywood, the mood began shifting. Initially, Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds had the quiet backing of many colleagues. Their reputations had long been rooted in charm, charity, and likability. But the moment their names became associated with terms like creator suppression, anti-speech litigation, and digital censorship, the atmosphere changed. One veteran Hollywood publicist, speaking anonymously to an industry blog, explained the shift bluntly: "This doesn't play well with the public. You can't be the fun, sarcastic power couple on Instagram and also be the ones targeting small creators in court. It's a brand mismatch, and it's getting worse every day." Indeed, the branding problem quickly began to spiral. Media outlets that once fawned over the couple's wholesome image began running more critical pieces. Variety questioned the optics of two multimillionaires legally pursuing mid-tier creators. The Atlantic wrote a scathing editorial titled "When Celebrities Use the Law Like a Weapon." And then came the silence from within their circle, the kind that says more than any comment ever could. Several of Blake's and Ryan's closest Hollywood friends noticeably avoided engaging with the controversy altogether. On social media, where mutual support and co-promotion are common, there was a conspicuous lack of any public statements in defense of the couple's legal actions. Some insiders suggested that friends were quietly advising them to settle or withdraw the subpoenas to minimize damage. Others hinted that calls were being made behind the scenes to assess the potential PR fallout. Meanwhile, creators continued to gain traction. Several of those targeted by subpoenas have now joined together to form a legal coalition, pooling resources to challenge the demands as overly broad, burdensome, and unconstitutional. One lawyer for the group described the subpoenas as a fishing expedition, disguised as a legal necessity. Another compared it to using a sledgehammer to swat a fly and hitting the whole neighborhood. Instead, even more telling were the broader industry reactions. Platforms like YouTube and Substack issued carefully worded statements emphasizing their commitment to creator safety and legal compliance. While they didn't name Blake or Ryan directly, their messages sent a clear signal. They were watching, and so were their users. Behind the scenes, lawyers representing other celebrities reportedly began advising clients to avoid similar legal tactics unless absolutely necessary. As one entertainment attorney told The Wrap, there's a growing awareness that legal aggression in the digital age is a double-edged sword. You might win in court but lose in the court of public opinion. And that's precisely what's happening now. Because with every passing week, the legal battle is no longer just about Blake Lively's case against Justin Baldoni, or even the subpoenas themselves. It's about whether public figures can tolerate public scrutiny, whether independent media deserves the same respect and protection as legacy outlets, whether we're entering a new phase of digital expression, where influence doesn't just come from Hollywood or Washington but from a laptop, a microphone, and a voice brave enough to speak. As we reach the end of this explosive saga, one thing is abundantly clear: this isn't just about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds anymore. It's not just about subpoenas, lawsuits, or even a specific group of creators. What's unfolded in the wake of this controversy is a broader cultural reckoning, a showdown between influence and accountability, celebrity power and creator independence, legal strategy, and free expression. For years, the entertainment industry operated under the assumption that image was everything, that control over a narrative was the same as control over truth. But in the digital age, that illusion is being dismantled in real time. Content creators armed with nothing but research, commentary, and a platform are now able to challenge even the most curated celebrity reputations. And when those challenges are met with legal force rather than dialogue, the public takes notice and reacts. What Blake Lively's team may have intended as a defensive move has instead opened the floodgates. Legal experts, digital rights organizations, and even members of the press have now weighed in, many calling the subpoenas excessive, overreaching, and damaging to the foundation of open discourse. Meanwhile, creators haven't just defended themselves, they've organized, galvanized, and elevated the conversation to something much bigger than one celebrity lawsuit. This isn't just a fight over a few videos or Instagram posts, it's a test case for how our society values speech in a new media landscape. Do we believe in a world where commentary, even critical commentary, has a right to exist without intimidation, or are we allowing legal systems to become tools of suppression? For those who can afford it, the answer matters, because what's decided in this courtroom and in the court of public opinion will ripple outward. It will affect how journalists, YouTubers, podcasters, and social commentators operate. It will influence whether everyday people feel safe expressing their views on powerful figures, and it will determine whether the internet remains a space of transparency or becomes just another arena where money decides who gets to speak. As for Blake and Ryan, their silence in the face of this growing backlash has only amplified the controversy. Once adored for their humor and charm, their reputations now stand at a crossroads. Do they double down and risk alienating the very public that once embraced them, or do they step back, reassess, and choose a different path? One thing is certain: the creators aren't backing down. They've made it clear that this fight isn't about clicks or views, it's about principle, about the right to participate in public discourse, and about making sure that power never goes unchecked, no matter how famous the name behind it. This battle may have started quietly in courtrooms and comment sections, but it's ending with a message that's loud and clear: free speech doesn't belong to the powerful. It belongs to all of us.